Hello, everybody. My name is Mario Rivera, and today I will be talking to you guys about my content manager internship at The Last Stand. How I got the job. I first started out by submitting several job applications for organizations and companies using various job finder sites such as LinkedIn, Indeed, Glassdoor, and Handshake. Although I made progress in the hiring process for several companies and completed several interviews, I was not able to find an employment opportunity. Unfortunately, I was starting to run out of time to turn in a company to work for the internship class. So I decided to reach out to friends and acquaintances to see if they knew of any opportunities and contract positions. So a friend of mine referred me to The Last Stand. At the time, they were struggling with their online content and social media outreach. So I directly reached out to the owners and we had a formal sit down where they reviewed my portfolio, essentially asked me about my skills. And from there, they gave me an opportunity to come work as a content manager for a contract position. So, who is The Last Stand? They originally opened in August of 2019. They are a local, freshly made food stand that is located in the Bishop Arts District in South Dallas. Their menu essentially offers Tex-Mex dishes, so tacos, burritos, chips and queso, to American classics such as burgers and fries. Um, the Last Stand also has an abundant drink selection, so they offer everything from regular non-alcoholic drinks to alcoholic beverages. Um, if you compare the Last Stand to other restaurants around the area, they have more of a casual, affordable atmosphere. And essentially, what they were looking to do is to grow their online presence and find new ways to promote their events. So, my job responsibilities for them, I essentially had four major tasks that I did for them. The first one was to create a social media events calendar. So we created an accessible online calendar for future events and promotions. Uh, we also, provided a comprehensive social media post procedure. So we had scheduled when we were going to share social media posts and when we were going to share social media events. Um, the social media calendar was created using Google Calendars. This was essentially good for everybody, as we all had access to the calendar and we could all discuss what was coming up and if we needed to make any changes. Um, the next thing that I did was create a content strategy procedure. The content strategy procedure came from a content audit. I conducted a audit of their old website and their social media accounts. So, I essentially looked for who their followers were, what type of content they were sharing, and what type of content they wanted to share. And from there, I created a series of personas, and this was gonna be what we were gonna use to share our future content. Um, the content strategy was essentially done in order to compete with other competitors around the area. And so we could also create original content that will make the Last stand out from other food places around the area. Another major responsibility was the creation of a social media campaign. So we created a consumer focused social media campaign. We followed our content strategy procedures in order to implement future events and appealing social media posts. Uh, in our social media campaign, we were able to monitor consumer interaction and as well as follower growth. And lastly, I was responsible for creating a new company website for them. We wanted to create an appealing and modern looking website with various functionalities. The major functionality that we wanted to include was menu highlights and online ordering capabilities. In addition, we also wanted to showcase the atmosphere and the events that the last stand was carrying out. So some of the major softwares and tools that I used, they include Google Gmail, which was essentially our communication software. This is how we would communicate or share content or social media designs. Another major tool that we used was the Google Calendar. This was great because everybody had access to it. We could go in there and update things or include new things. Um, and another major tool that I use was Canva. Canva was essentially the tool that we used to create all their designs for social media posts and also for some of the designs that went into the website. We obviously use Facebook and Instagram for the social media campaign. This is where we were going to share all of our content, and those are the two major accounts that they've had. And then lastly, I use Microsoft Word. This was just for me to maintain all of the written content that was going to go into the website to make sure, everything from grammar, tone was, professionally done. Oh, and the last thing that I should mention is that the website was created using Squarespace. This was a great learning experience for me as I've never used Squarespace before. I'm usually more of a WordPress guy, but now I can say that I have Squarespace, as a tool. So now we'll go ahead and highlight our social media campaign. This was a major responsibility that I had. So we constructed the social media campaign, conducting a content audit, a content analysis of their social media followers, their current clients, and some of the public that live nearby. We developed a content strategy procedure to support social media campaign goals, which is essentially to increase social media followers and increase sales. Um, from the content audit, we created 4 personas, and we were gonna use these personas in order to create future social media posts or events that were appealing to them. And we kept up with our social media posts and our future events, like I said, using the Google Calendar. This was an easy way for everybody to go in and access what was coming up, or if we needed to include more things, or when we had essentially room for events. So we implemented the social media campaign to the Instagram and Facebook pages. The social media designs were essentially created to appeal and reach current and potential customers. Again, the main goal of the social media campaign was to increase audience outreach and increase sales. And then the social media campaign essentially focused on providing a appealing experience for the consumer as the warm patio months are ahead of us. As you know, it is currently springtime in Texas, so this is essentially their high season for them. And we needed to essentially take action to carry out or to start a good sales pitch for spring and to carry it out into some of the summer months. Another major thing that I will highlight is their company website. So they needed an upgrade to their company website. The current website that they had was a Google site, which was essentially very plain and not appealing at all. And in addition, it didn't have any online ordering capabilities, and it didn't really highlight their menu or their atmosphere. Um, so, in order to create the website, I first created a sitemap in order to arrange the content. Um, we needed to essentially put all maintain the content uniformly, and just to make sure that wherever we were gonna put that type of content went or was directly related to what we wanted to showcase. Um, so we purchased an original domain name. This was done to create more authenticity. The previous Google site didn't have their own actual domain, so that was something that we wanted to take care of right away. Like I said before, the website was constructed using Squarespace. Um, and we created a website that is both appealing and functional. It includes all the previously stated highlights that we wanted to make, which was to highlight their menu, their drinks, their events, and overall their atmosphere. And at the same time, we included online ordering capabilities. So, some of the major Techcom courses that were relevant to my time at the last stand, I would have to say that the digital content strategies class was great for this because it essentially provided the foundation for me to analyze, strategize, and generate new content for the last stand. Um, and essentially just creates a roadmap or how you want to implement online content and procedures going forward. Um, then the other course that helped me out a lot, this was an undergrad course, which was the TCM 3500 Digital Media for Professional Communicators. This was on this class, we essentially carried out a social media campaign, and all the lessons that I learned from that course, I directly put them into our social media campaign that we carried out for the last stand. So essentially provided the framework necessary, to create appealing content and when and how to do it. And then the other course that really benefited was the measuring usability and user experience. By taking this course into account, I essentially put the user first. Everything that we created, we essentially put the audience as the main stakeholder. So everything that we did it thinking how they will react or how they will interact with the content. Um, and then lastly, the other class that helped out a lot was TCM 5280, which was designing technical documents. This was essentially how we were going to design the social media post and how to make them appealing by still following some of the rules of design. So, some of my biggest challenges from working with the last stand was that it was a contract work. So I needed to essentially track my hours and make sure that I completed the right amount of hours to be able to pass the class. And as being as a contract work, I essentially didn't have any benefits. So no 401k, no health insurance or anything like that. Another big challenge is that this was a short start notice, so I took the opportunity really quickly, and because of that, we essentially had to streamline several of those processes and essentially hit the ground running. Another big challenge was essentially getting stakeholders to invest. So the owners they're great people, but unfortunately they have a limited budget. As right now we are going through a pandemic, and restaurants have been some of the biggest hard hit organizations from it. So they essentially didn't have a lot of money to invest. Um, and at the same time, this was their first experience dealing with somebody that was going to be a content manager for them. So because they never really had to deal with somebody like this before, um, it essentially took a little bit more time to communicate and showcase as to why we were going to do the things we were going to do. Um, so what I would change, uh, the main thing that I would change is just to have more time. If I would have been able to start with the last stand, say at the beginning of the semester, I would have had more time to, perhaps do more. Um, and the other thing that I would change is essentially have a team or partner. I was essentially a one man team, so I had to wear many hats. This was a great learning experience, but at the same time, it's always good to have somebody to fall back on, or essentially, like they said, two heads is always better than one. The other thing that I would change is have an office space. They essentially are a restaurant, so they don't have any offices. So I would work from home to create and do all the things that I did for them. Um, and so sometimes being at home can be a little bit distracting. And the last thing that I would change is just to have a bigger budget. Obviously, if we had a bigger budget, we would be able to create better and more things. So my overall learning experience, I was very happy with my experience. I essentially learned to optimize my time, and to be a one man team. I was able to, in a day, do different things. So like I said, wear different hats, whether I was writing, whether I was designing, or whether I was strategizing how we were going to move forward. That was a great learning experience. Um, and then the other thing that was great is that I learned to seek alternatives. Like I said, they didn't have any budget, so me being a student, I didn't have a budget of my own or a big budget of my own as well. So I didn't have a lot of fancy tools or software to work with. So we seeked cheap or free alternatives in order to create our content. But overall, it was, they're great people to work for, and I am very happy with the opportunity that they provided. And that is all that I have for you guys. Thank you so much for watching. Here is my email if you want to contact me in the future, or you can also visit my LinkedIn page. Again, thank you so much. Goodbye.